Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So we're back on the trailer. It's been a few days, I haven't had a chance to get back on it, but we're going to do some work today. So as you can see, I've got some of the leaf spring accessories or mounting kit open. So we're going to line this thing up. I'll show you how I'm going to do it. I like to discuss the 60-40 theory. Now, online, you can go up and look at different trailer builds. A lot of guys use the theory. It seems to work really well with trailers 10 feet and under. Anything getting larger than that, there is a mathematical way of measuring where the axle should be placed, depending on the tongue weight. Now that's important. You don't want the tongue to be too light. That's dangerous when towing, and you don't want it to be too heavy because that's going to drag everything down. So there is a theory for that, or a mathematical equation to figure that out. That's usually the complete length of tongue and everything, and then there's a couple of equations that you need to figure out. Now that is easy accessible online. Take a look at it. If you're making something bigger than a 10-foot trailer, the 60-40 theory does work quite well with 10 feet and under. I'm going to use that. Now 60-40 basically means that your axle is going to be at the 40% mark. So this is 10-foot bed. Our axle is going to be on the 48 mark from the back to the front of the trailer. Should work out perfectly. I've placed the leaf springs on the actual trailer. I'm going to take you in and I'm going to show you exactly what I did to kind of figure out where to put them and how to line them up properly. There's a couple of different ways. Some guys will measure. I like doing it this way. I get a good visual of where it's at. I'll show you exactly. I'll bring you in a little closer so I can show you exactly how I'm doing it. So let me get my coffee out of the way. And we'll get right on it. We'll mark it and weld it up. So guys, I got you in a little closer. So you remember we marked 48 here, and that's the center of that 2x2. That's really important. We wanted that there. So what I've done is I marked the center of the eye, and this is their eye for your leaf spring. And I lined it up to the bottom there. And how I lined it up, of course, is with a square. So pretty straightforward, right? So I put my square up against the rail, and I made sure I was lined up perfectly, and I am. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to make some marks here, coming down from the center of this eye here, and the center of that eye, and then we're going to line up those brackets. So let me put this back on a tripod, and I will show you how I lined that up. Okay guys, so I've got my square. I'm going to come on down here. This is already lined up with the center of the 48. Of course, that's being 4 feet. That's being 6 feet, okay? So what we're going to do is, and that's your 40% mark. So let me just get something for my knees here. At my age, I'm starting to feel it. So that figures. Put that there. Okay. So basically what we're going to do here is mark the dead center of that leaf spring. The eye, right? And we're going to make a mark. So we're going to just figure out where the center is. It's right about there. And I made a mark. We're going to do the same thing on this side. Trying to get this thing to sit right. Being a little bit of a challenge. I got it. There we go. Okay, so we got it marked. So now, hopefully you guys can see this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark the center of this. Okay, so this is, I'm pretty sure this is pretty square. What do we got? Maybe I should, 3 inches. So 1.5 inches. Should be dead center. Inch and a half is dead center. Now the shorter shackle that fits on the actual leaf spring sits on the back. The bigger one with the extensions will sit in the, sorry, the front is the shorter one. The bigger one is with the shackles is for the back. So let me get that one and I'll show you. So we'll measure it. This should be the same width-wise, and it is. So dead center of this guy is 1.5 inches. I'm going to make a mark. 1.5 inches. Okay. So what we're going to do is we'll line all this up, and then I will take measurements and make sure we're good. I did measure from the leaf spring to the back of the trailer on both sides. They're 100% even, which is awesome. So I'll show you. Let me move this guy out of the way for a second. And then I'll line those guys up. And of course, I'm going to use my square again. That on. Now you want to try to get this to as even on that 2x2 or 2x4 as you can. And that's where I'm at. Then of course we'll make a mark. Okay, I got that one lined up. Let's get this other one lined up. Now what I'm going to do is I will tack weld it in, okay? And just a light tack. Make sure it fits properly. Both sides fit properly. Do my measurements. Make sure everything is where it's supposed to be. Then I'll take it apart again and weld it in permanently. But I won't weld anything until I know it's set up right. It's important, right? So you want to make sure this guy is sitting bang on, right? Okay, so let's get this back on here. We'll move this guy over. And no, I moved it. We're good. Okay. So let me just throw a square on this. One. We're good there. Okay, so the game plan is we'll tack that in, and then we'll move on to the next one and do the same thing. But that's what it looks like. So we'll do a light tack on each side, and then we'll clean her up. So what I want to do is just slightly clean up the edges on this thing, because I want to clean weld. My 2x4 has been cleaned, so I'm good. I'm just going to lightly give it a scraping, just to make sure I get a clean weld. This weld is an important weld. I mean, all welds are important welds, but this is an important weld. All right, so let me just lean that on here. Let me get my welder out, and we'll tack these in place and make sure we're good. That's awesome. Okay, let me turn this guy on. I've already got him set up. Turn the gas on. And let's turn it around. All right. My welding gloves. Now I'm going to use a square up against it just to make sure she's sitting square to the pipe. Where are we? Where did I put that? Make sure she's still square. She is. Okay, so I got that tacked in. Let's tack the other one in. Move that where I need it. Seems to be pretty good there. Seems to be pretty good. Okay, so I got those tacked in. Move that out of the way. Let's get some nuts and bolts, and we will put it together and see how it fits. Let's see. Now this is just a mock-up, okay guys? It's nothing, I'm not torquing anything in. Just slightly putting it together. Why isn't this thing going on? There we go. So we'll line this guy up There we go. We're pretty good. Now, some guys will have this drag back a bit. You can do that, or off center if you like. I've never had to. I'm not quite sure why people are doing that, but I've always kind of put it straight on, up and down. Slightly bent to one side would be fine, but she's looking good. Once the weight's on it, it'll push down. The way this works is the weight will push down, and it'll allow this to bend, okay? So it doesn't put too much pressure at the bottom. So we're good. We're good. Let me just double check something, and we should be bang on with center, and I think we are. Right on. Okay, that's good. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing on this side, and that should work out perfectly. So we're going to go ahead and line this guy up. And of course, we're going to weld the whole thing, right? It's looking pretty good. Okay. So I'm really happy because the center of that beam is right dead center where the axle is. And that's what we wanted, so that's awesome. That's going to work out quite nicely. So I'm happy with that. Once that axle gets put on, we should be good. I will do some final measurements later to make sure everything's where it's supposed to be before we weld everything back together. So if you remember, it was 1.5 inches. So we're going to go back to 1.5 inches. Dead center. 1.5 inches. There's 1.5 inches on that one. Inch and a half on that one. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to mark these again. We're going to go off this 48 mark, okay, to the center of that eye. And then we're going to do the same mount. That should work out pretty good. Okay, we're good there. Bang on. That, and we'll throw a square on that. That's marked. Perfect. And I'm dropping everything. That's all right. Mark that here. That should work out perfect. I'll square those off in a second, and then we'll tack them in place. Here's that one. Oh, let me scoop that up. That one goes there. And it should be the same. Yep. Okay. And this one goes here. And there we go. Now those should be perfect. Now what we're going to do is I'll tack those in. Then we'll do some measurements and make sure before we go ahead and do any final welding. Make sure the placement's right. And I think it is. Okay, we'll get those tacked in place. This is the longer, this is the shorter, okay, wider. All right, let's go get that welder and we'll tack that in. Move that over here, bring my magnet over. It's good. Of course, I'll still use the square once I place that on there. It should work out quite nicely. Got her where I needed her. Should be okay there. Move this guy over. And now we'll get this guy in place. And I'm hoping we can get her lined up nicely. All right. We should be okay there. Nice. Nice and square. Okay, let's get this guy on there. Move my welder out of the way. Okay. I'll grab some nut and bolts and we'll get that tacked in there. Alright, so I got one nut and bolt here. Nice. All right. All right, we got them in there. Looking pretty good. So let me grab a tape measure. So we're at 34 there. We're off. So that one is off by a hair. 34. Let me just make sure I'm measuring this right. Yeah, we're off. Okay, so I got to cut that one and move it forward a bit. Not good. And am I lined up here? I'm not. Okay, so it must have moved on me. This is why, guys, I just tack weld things in. I don't permanently weld anything until I'm completely set up. We'll cut that off and we'll move it. So it's 34. Way off. Okay. Huh. I'm almost a quarter of an inch off.
Sorry guys, I'm getting some feedback on my mic. I was told that it's coming from the heater in the shop. I'm gonna have to figure something out.
34 less than 1/8. Yeah, she's got to move. All right, we shall move that. Okay guys, so I got ready. Let's weld this up. I'm going to leave the leaf springs in there for now. I'll do the outside, then I'll loosen them up and move them out of the way and do the back side. But we'll keep them in there, make sure that they don't distort or twist. I don't think they will, but you know what, better safe than sorry. And I'll do both outsides first. Nice and hot. Beautiful. Looking good. Now, of course, we're going to double up on that weld on the outside line and the inside line. But she's looking pretty good. So we'll go on the other side and do the same. And then I'll do is I'll remove that and we'll get her welded all together. I'm wondering if I can reach. That's my problem. Do I reach? I do not. Oops. Let's see if I can get her to come down this way. Let's see how well I can get this end of things. Yeah, this should do it. I should be able to get that in there. All right, let's see. Then I'll move it over to the other side. Yeah, I should be all right. Yeah, I was able to do that. This one I won't. I got to move that welder over to the other side. So let me see if I can get this bottom one welded. We'll clean that up. Gonna have to go around. Oh, get this side done. We're good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the actual leaf springs out of the equation, and then I will double check everything, but I think we're good. Everything looks to be welded quite well, so we're good. So we can move on to our next step. Bring you guys in a little closer. You can see that it's completely welded. We'll clean it all up to make it look good. But she's all ready to rock and roll. So what you see here is some 1.5 inch angle iron. So I had this left over from another project. But what I'm thinking of doing is that when you grab onto this, there's a little bit of a twist. So I'm going to cut some pieces and go across up to the tongue, and we'll tack them in. Do I have to? No, I don't. But I build everything like it's built for me. So I have it, so let's go for it. I'm going to put this back on a tripod, and we'll measure it out, and we'll put a strip going right down the middle. And that'll just hold that angle iron from twisting.
So guys, I've got our all pour 15 done on the underneath of this trailer. Now it'll level itself out. I know it looks kind of spotty and brushy from the brush marks and stuff, but it should level itself off. I will give it a second coat. It's pretty chilly out here, so it'll take a little while to dry, but it's starting to get tacky, so that's good. And then once we give it a second coat and it's dry, we'll flip her over and get the axle mounted and the tires on. And then we'll start working on the rails, the support rails on the outside, well, upper rails, and the floor and the electrical and wheel wells and the whole 9 yards. So guys, I'm gonna cut it here. I hope you guys enjoyed this segment. You know, think of subscribing. It would help me out tremendously. I would really appreciate it. And if you can, throw me a thumbs up. Thanks again, guys.